Next week on Thursday, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning will be in Parliament, and he will be giving the budget policy statement before Parliament. Okay? This is what traditionally was the budget day, when he would come, and he has held something secretly for a long time, the tax measures. This has now been watered down by the Constitution. So what used to happen before Constitution of Kenya 2010 is on the day of the budget day, that's the day that the National Treasury CS would come up with that suitcase. In there, he's saying how much he's going to tax the daylights out of you. And he is only going to release it on Parliament that day in the afternoon and say, revenue rate. He starts with expenditure and the focus, right? He says, Mr. Speaker, in the next financial year, in the current financial year, we had said our focus is going to be on infrastructure development, and we are going to invest on this kind of the infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. We're also going to support manufacturing, blah, 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 blah. We're going to support trade and investment, blah, 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 blah. In the next financial year, Mr. Speaker, our focus is going to be on the plan of the Kenya Kwanza administration, which has universal health access. So we want to invest X amount of money to universal health, blah, blah, by paying CHPs, blah, 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 by improving facilities, blah, 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 by buying equipment, blah, blah, by hiring doctors, blah, blah. The other pillar of Kenya Kwanza is, what is the other one? Supporting MSMEs.
Yes.
So we want to put in more money into the Hasra Fund. And we are going to have blah, 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 and we're going to build markets, because when we build markets, we're supporting the SMEs. We are also looking at the county integration industrial parks, because that is going to support the SMEs in value addition at the local level, supporting them through the value chains. He can be finance minister. Mr. Speaker, sir, go on and on and on and on, and give out the 5 core pillars of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto on what we want to do. Now, Mr. Speaker, I turn to the revenue-raising measures.
How we are going to do this, Mr. Speaker,
How we are going to raise this money, Mr. Speaker, sir. Before 2010, this is when now the Minister for Finance would now start unleashing and saying, for this, Mr. Speaker, we propose to introduce a special economic zone, because you operate in Kenya and a tax.
We will go to the domestic market.
Of 6 market. Well, then we are going to just to cover this the deficit will only be a trillion shillings, and to cover this trillion shilling deficit, we're only going to borrow 300 billion. The rest will like that. Okay. Now, after Constitution of Kenya 2010, things changed, and Parliament is given the power to actually make the budget, and that is why in February the Treasury takes in the budget policy statement to Parliament. For scrutiny. This is where now they come and say, Mr. Speaker, sir, we want our focus to be on these key areas, and we want to put in X amount of money spending on these key areas. Okay?
Yes.
When Parliament says, okay, so in total you want to spend how much? 4.2 trillion shillings. Okay, go ahead.
Go and spend.
The next thing they do is they bring the budget estimates before Parliament. So you see this 3.9 trillion. It's not 4.2 anymore, it's 3.9. This 3.9, this is exactly where the money is going. Oh, education is going to get this much. School feeding, we have removed the school feeding. Gachagua, we have removed this money for buying salmon. We are going to put money into taking our soldiers to Haiti. That's a budget estimates. It's currently before committees of Parliament.
Yes.
Then the revenue-raising measures. It's called the finance bill.
Yes.
And it's right now before Parliament for public participation. This is where they're saying, Mr. Speaker, sir, we want to introduce something called a motor vehicle circulation tax.
Yes.
And it will, by amending the income tax. And therefore, we are actually calling this motor vehicle circulation tax another income tax. We are also going to introduce the eco tax, because we are a global leader and global champion on climate change. And we have to play the part of leading from the front. And that's why we're introducing the eco levy. So that the eco levy, we are taxing everything that is ecologically unhealthy.
Everything that moves in plastic.
We tax it.
We will tax it. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, we are also introducing another levy called what?
It's the imposition of VAT on forex transactions.
Yes.
That means as anybody in this republic sends money, we will have a 10 to 20% increase on the cost of money transfer charges. Sir, please. So if it used to cost you 27 shillings, it will now cost you 29.5 shillings. If it used to cost you 100 shillings, it will now cost you 110 to 120 shillings to send. You're not send money yet, so
to send
the money. that you're sending. If you were sending above 20,000 when it costs you some 197 shillings, it will now cost you over 200 shillings to send that money. Are we together? Yes, please.
Way.
Now, the cost of a loaf of bread will increase by 9 shillings, depending on the kind of loaf of bread that you used to buy before. A liter of cooking oil will increase by 16.81 shillings, and the price of a kilogram of power detergent will go up by 30 shillings to 230.
Way.
Shall we continue?
Continue, please.
If you are going to buy the cooking oil, by virtue of the fact that these people who are packaging have to, so now this same oil, the oil itself has increased by 16 shillings according to the finance bill.
Because we've increased excise, did you have it from 25 to 30%?
Yes, please. So
we have also increased
oil
the VAT.
itself is going to increase by 16 shillings.
Okay.
Apart from that, so you cannot carry oil in your hand.
You also furious.
Or you go to the shop and say, Niko na juala, I want to buy oil. No, please. It comes in a what?
Container.
It comes in a container.
Plastic.
Now, the eco tax is applied to that container.
The plastic container.
The plastic container.
Very good.
And that price will increase not by 1, not by 2, not even by 10 or 20, by 150 shillings.
On the container.
Yeah.
The container itself.
You have not bought the oil. You have not fried an onion. The container. So let's assume that you used to buy oil for 300 shillings. You will now buy for 316 shillings, and we will add on top of that 150 shillings. So you will now buy this oil for a grand total of 466 shillings. Thank you very much. Got it?
Where?
That's just
Mambo ni mbaya, wacha nikakujua pombe.
So
Pombe wameongeza?
You wait before we get to pombe.
Eh.
Here you were thinking that if you get the tax here, you will dodge it somewhere else. It can never be you, my friend, because everywhere they'll find you. The oil, the container. As you're entering your car to drive to the supermarket to buy that oil and to even buy the container, they'll tax you on top. So you can't escape, my friend.
You pay for it.
Yes, now.
They've introduced the tax also on rubber.
Yeah.
Tire ya gari ni rubber. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So you're paying for the motor vehicle circulation tax. You're going at and buying tires. Tax. There's a new tax.
Yeah.
Extra tax
It's not just
on the
car,
rubber.
even for it to literally move,
Yes.
move like this, for the wheels to literally turn. You
Eco
have to
tax. Shokom sobas come packed in cartons.
Carton.
Hiyo carton iko na eco levy.
Eh.
So shokom soba inaongezeka sababu ya hiyo. You're taking your car for service. So you're buying synthetic oil. Synthetic oil is in plastic. Hiyo plastic iko na eco levy imepanda. Are we together so far?
So far. Can I continue and add another one? Do you
add.
remember here the other day, not the other day, maybe a couple of months ago, we had the PS in the Ministry of Kiniko, where he talked about locally assembled phones, where it's now retailing for 6,000. Affordable phone, smartphone,
ICT
it can
and the
do
digital
ICT,
economy.
Digital economy. The digital highway has opened. We're gonna drive down the digital highway, seeing the world with our 2 eyes, embracing with our full chest. They said, "Ha ha, we see you." Now you know what we are going to do. We are going to add some small VAT on locally assembled mobile phones, which are currently zero rated. The point was that they were zero rated
So we
to encourage Kenyans to buy. But they said, this thing is not sweeting us. It's not sweeting our stomach. We want to charge you. So 16% on it.
The
So
damn things
that
have not
phone-
even hit the market properly.
That phone that they said that you would buy for 8,000 or
Yeah.
7,000 is now 1,000 shillings more expensive. The one that you said you buy for 8,999 will now be 10,439 shillings. You know, take your pick. Where are you? Are you driving on the road? Are you walking, buying a loaf of bread with your milk as you're trying to now sort out yourself? My friend, you will pay for it, because even the milk, like I said, you cannot carry it in your hand. It is in a what? It is in a packet. You will pay for it. If you're of the kind that wants to fly, you fly from point A to point B.
Go to Kisumu Dala
Thank
flight.
you very much. You wake up one Friday morning and you decide, it's Kilifi, I want to go. Let me go to Kilifi and just breathe. Or let me go to Lamu and just breathe a different air. They said, okay, we're coming for you. They said, It's okay. Very good. However, this winged, what did she call? What did the good
fixed
engineer?
wing.
Fixed wing. The equipment will be significantly more expensive because there's a levy that they're going to impose on it for the purchase of equipment. And come on, these guys are not using the same plane that they've been using in 1983. No, you want to be, along, so they have to buy the equipment. But sorry,
and
the person who is, and spare parts, the person who is flying is the one who is going to pay. So you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of tea, you pay for the milk, you're going to fry an egg, the oil, you pay for it, and you have bread, you pay 10 shillings on top for it. Then you stand up and enter your car. You say you're going to where?
JKIA.
Let's say you didn't even drive that day. If you decide that you want to take an Uber, Uber
to go to
JKIA
or Wilson,
they said that the Uber will be more expensive because
Uber has to
pay another 6% on top of. So you, my friend, are the one who is going to pay. So you've done what? You've woken up in the morning. That's the only thing that didn't tax you for. You wake up in the morning, you drink tea, you eat bread, you have an egg. You take the Uber to this airport where you have bought a ticket to Lamu to enjoy the weekend breeze. They said even that one, we are going to charge you. You have not reached Lamu yet. So when you reach, you will now come down. You decide you're going to have a bottle of water. Even that one, they've taxed you because the packaging of the thing is even now more expensive.
Take another taxi. This time take another taxi.
They have taxed you again. This time you say, let me use Bolt. Enter. They've taxed you again. Okay, you say, so now let me just relax. I will take because Lamu, you don't have a choice. Once you come down, you have to take a boat to your next destination. The thing is not a sailing boat. That one we wait until later when you see the sunset on the Dao. But for now, you're on the motorized boat where they're charging you fuel because you're going to get from point A to point B. All in a day's work, my good friend. You're taxed from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. And you know what? These are not pre-existing taxes.
These are new taxes. There's a new tax.
New taxes.
Throughout your day.
Now, that thing that you are talking about, whereby you are asking, so how are we going to raise that money? That explained in the finance bill. This is the money that they're looking for, and that is how it's going to impact you. Mon ami, c'est très difficile.
Oui. Alafu, that income of yours that you have been looking at and you're thinking...
we've not even talked about how you are...
starting July, the new Social Health Act comes into play. Are you okay? 2.75 of your gross income is going to be taxed for health.
Okay.
This is from July 1st. Okay? So your
salary... come back from Lamu now?
Your salary, you've gone at your spending, because end month is coming and I'm going to get an extra salary. That salary that you will receive at the end of the month will be less because it has been taxed. There's a new levy that is now for housing. It's extra. It's a new percentage. It kicks in July. My friend, all these things. If you look at the finance bill and where it's seeking to raise the revenues, it has almost everybody is complaining. And everybody is complaining on serious issues. Manufacturers of everything, including diapers and sanitary pads, are complaining. Right? And they're saying, look, 6 years ago, Kenya did not have locally manufactured diapers. 6 years ago. And then because of the government interventions, we were now able to come and invest. People have put in multi-billion shilling factories in Kenya. There are 6 manufacturers of diapers and sanitary pads in Kenya. They are now supplying locally. They are about to saturate the local market. They are supplying into the region, into the East African community. Some have already been approached by European retailers. Your diapers are cheaper than those that we have in Europe. However, your diapers are more expensive than those that are coming from China. Can you match what is coming from China? Yeah. Just as they were about to say, yes, government, you're imekuja.
It's that guy who is behind the door with his eyebrows just looking at you.
At you're about to strike that deal. At you export it to Europe. At you'll be cheaper than China. No, forget it. No. Diapers, more expensive. Boxes, cartons, more expensive. Everything is more expensive. Even having your money in your bank is more expensive. Removing it is more expensive.
Sending it to the guy
Sending it
more
is expensive.
For goodness sake.
Everything is expensive. Kila kitu. Now, if you look at all that and where everybody is complaining, you ask yourself,
there's a problem, Eric.
What's
It's not possible that every possible industry represented has an issue with this tax. It is not that should we or should we not pay tax. We are saying, and everybody's saying, that the punitive nature in which it's coming about is a problem, and that it is not a complaint that you don't want to give Caesar what is due to Caesar, but essentially what you're doing is that you're throttling the economy. That what you are going to see, if your intent was to collect money, what you're going to see is that lethargy, number one, is going to kick in.
Yeah.
The inability by consumers to consume, because what the expectation with tax is that if you have a product for which you have to apply a tax, that means the end user is going to have to pay more for it. There is going to be an inability by the consumer whom you're so heavily dependent on to actually consume. So it becomes counterproductive because you're not able then to have a large mass of people consuming in order for you to collect this money that you think you want to collect. So it becomes counterintuitive to impose such punitive taxes on your people. It doesn't make sense that from the rising in the morning and everything that you have to do until the end of the day, the business that you're doing is paying tax. The business that you've woken up to do, whether it is working, whether it is schooling, whatever it is, pay, even in your leisure, whereby one would think that you would get a moment to breathe. If you're in a golf club tomorrow, they want to tax that as well. Remember? If you're in any kind of sports club where some kind of leisure is happening, they want to tax you as well. And not just you in the country, even people who come up from outside, they want to tax them as well. So what are we talking about here? Is it making the environment more conducive for its people to thrive? Or is it actually throttling every single process that they could use for that same desired end? And then it doesn't happen. Because what are we seeing now? Auctioneers gave a story. They are feeling sorry for people. Auctioneers gave a story yesterday. They are actually feeling sorry for people because they said, we've never seen anything like this before.
Yep.
People's businesses being auctioned, people's homes being auctioned, people's property being auctioned because they cannot pay.
Yep.
And in that same arena, a government who is tasked with the responsibility of making the environment more conducive is the one that is bringing in these measures that, if anything, is going to kill an economy.
Yeah.
That is what we're talking about here. It is not romance. It's not trying to say, oh, please love me. No. We are saying here that it is very difficult. With these proposals that are being made, the opposite of what you're trying to do is what is going to happen. Make no mistake, it is not doomsday conspiracy. It is not saying the government is bad. We are saying 1 + 1 = 2. And in this case, you increase the taxes in the manner in which you're increasing them. It is not going to be long. Things are going to fall apart.
It's counterproductive.
They already are.
Already, if you go back 18 years ago is 2006. Okay? In the 90s, coming into the 2000s and into 2002 into 2006, we had high interest rates. The government of Mwai Kibaki comes in. What was it called? It was not called Jubilee, it was called Rainbow. The Rainbow government comes in 2002, 2003 they start. And by 2006, that's the last time we saw very high rate of non-performing loans in Kenya. April this year, we have gone back to the figures that we last saw in 2006 in terms of non-performing loans. Data released by the Central Bank of Kenya on Wednesday showed that the gross non-performing loans as a ratio of total advanced loans rose to 16.1% by April, up from 15.5% in February. This is the highest non-performing loans ratio since May 2006, and it's set to force banks to make huge provisions for bad debts and usher in another season of painful auctions. You just talked about auctions. The increasing bad loans are spread out in sectors including household, real estate and trade, as the sharper borrowing costs prove disruptive across the entire spectrum of the economy. Here's what the CBK is saying. Increase in non-performing loans were noted in agriculture, in real estate, in tourism, in restaurants and hotels, in trade and buildings and construction sectors. Already this is it. And this is as a result of last year's measures.
Yep.
Now we have come into these proposed measures of this year. And everybody, including their grandmother's cat, is telling you, my God, this thing is going to kill us.
Yeah, we cannot.
The question is, those who drafted this finance bill, are they sitting somewhere and are they hearing what Kenyans are saying? I'm not talking about even the members of parliament. Those ones, just leave them alone for a bit.
No.
Those who authored the finance bill, those in the National Treasury, those in the President's Economic Advisory Council, David D. and the others, because they had input into this, are they sitting back? Are they hearing what the people are saying? Those in cabinet, because cabinet approved this finance bill, are they hearing what the people are saying? Their chairman of the cabinet, the president of the Republic of Kenya, is he hearing what the people are saying? That this time round, unlike many other years before, when, for example, William Ruto first became an MP in 1997, when people an understanding of budget was just, okay, so we don't know, we're just waiting for the finance minister to come with fingers crossed and he's going to unleash the bombshell in parliament and we don't know. This time, there's greater awareness and there's greater feedback. And William Ruto is now in the driver's seat. Is he hearing what the people are saying from across the sector, from the individual taxpayer to manufacturers and employers? Is the president hearing the people? We want to ask you to give your message to the president. Dear Mr. President, speak to him. Don't speak to Kimani. Kimani is the chair of the Finance Committee of Parliament. He is a consumer of this bill, like the rest of us at present. Those who authored this bill took it to the president, and the president said, I like it. I like it. It's going to give us money, huh? I like it. Take it to Parliament. It's been taken to Parliament. We are hearing it. Speak to the president. He's the author of the bill. He's the owner of the finance bill. Let's talk to the guy. Let's talk to the owner. 0719-012-600. Also on our social media platforms, we are live streaming on YouTube and Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can post your comment there. We'll read it. If you're on Facebook, we'll also read it. Also, you can send us your comments on X. Tag us at Spice FM KE 0719-012-600. Dear Mr. President, we are speaking to the president because he's the owner of the finance bill. Okay? Speaking to our members of parliament, as we have established so far, if the members of parliament have whatever views they have, but the top dons, and this is the leader of Kenya Kwanza, and does not see what the issue is, the likelihood of this thing being amended is zero. So speak to the person who can influence amendments to the finance bill. And that is?
Mr. President.
William Samoei Ruto, Mr. President.
Mr. President, were you aware that the council was making these, and once you saw that these were the recommendations that were made in order to collect, were you aware that this is what they said? I remember you standing on a podium a few weeks ago and said, we will tax if that is what is needed to bring us out of this issue, and I stand by my word, nothing will happen. Are you seeing what will happen in this country? Are you seeing what will happen when people actually have to pay more that they already do not have? And this is in the wake of other things that were already piled upon them that they could not manage. We're looking at a situation where things are going to get significantly worse over the next 6 months if these things are adopted, and Kenyans will suffer. Kenyans will suffer. It is not a maybe, it is not an if, it is going to happen.
You know, I look at it and I see there's a communication problem here, okay? Because those that have put in these proposals, and like I said the other time, they should be the ones who are coming out to explain themselves. Maybe there's some legitimate reason and justification for introducing certain tax measures. Maybe there's justification for it. But just come out and explain yourself. Maybe that's there. When you hear from the president, the short one is, just looking at the tax to GDP ratio, and we are at 14%. Other countries are at plus 20%. So we've got to get to plus 20% even as. It sounds like, it's a 1+1 thing. That nope. His only reasoning is, I'm looking at it, so hii ni percent ngapi? Ongezeni kitafuteni mahali mpaka ifike 20. And the president needs to come out and not go on it that way, that I need you to tax you more so that we can be at par with the others.
Well, that's fine.
He needs to come and explain better and say, you know what, we need money for this, we need money for the other, we need money for here, we need money for here. We've got a program that is running for the next 5 years, and incrementally we're going to spend money here, 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 here. So when you raise this money this time, this is where it's going. And this is why we are proposing to get this money in this area, on this area, in this area. This one shall be ring-fenced. This one shall not. This one, we are calling it income. Okay, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe we shall call it something else. Explain it better, but don't just be arrogantly coming out to say, I'm looking at percentages.
I don't even have a problem with him making a comparison between Kenya and other countries that you want to achieve this number. I don't. However, it cannot just be the subject. You must include the predicate of this.
Yeah.
That those other countries that you want to look like when it comes to taxes, please, what are they doing on the back end? Okay? When they say that they're taxing, they'll be shouting everywhere saying the taxes are 50%, 60% of their income because of all this 1, 2, 3. That's very good. But guess what? Your children will go to school free of charge until they're 18 years old. They will finish secondary school and they did not pay. They paid nothing. You can eat off the roads in these same countries because they've been so good. If there is a problem overnight, by the time you wake up in the morning, that road has been fixed. There is never a time where power will blink like this and it will go off. It doesn't happen. You open your tap, water runs out of it. You have in your house dustbins, organic, paper. Somebody comes, picks it up, take it to a recycling plant, it's done. Wastewater is taken, it's channeled through the pipes in the city, it's put back in your tap, you can drink it. That's what we are talking about. So when you come and tell your people that we want to be at par with other countries that are taxing 60%, very good. However, what's happening in the back end? Are you actually able to take that money that you've taxed people for and produce the results that these same countries that you're comparing yourself to are actually doing it? That somebody will wake up in the morning and I have a headache and I will take a card and I will walk to hospital and I will not remove 10 shillings to be treated. That I will walk in and there will be a doctor who will see me, a nurse who will attend to me, a clinician who will handle my labs, etc., and I do not even have to ask. Will that also happen? If it will not happen, you have no
Forget about it.
Comparing yourself to others who tax at 50%. Stop it.
Forget about it. And that's the thing. Come and speak to the people. You can say that that's the journey we are taking, all right? So when we say we are going into health, this is what we are doing, and this is where the money will go, and it will prudently be used. In fact, look, in this financial year that's just coming to an end, this is what we've done with the money. We cannot say what we've done with a 3.6 trillion shilling budget that is coming to an end next month. We cannot. You cannot say that buying a new Lexus is what is justifiable. You can't. You can't say that when, for example, the East African Packaging Industries guy who closed his factory and he had to fire 80 people, that is the prudent raising of taxes last year. That's what it has done. You can't say that by raising the tax on importation of coal that used to make clinker and all those things that are now going to cement manufacturing, that will raise the cost of a bag of cement from 800, 600 to 1,200, 1,400, that this is going to have a positive impact on the economy. If people lose jobs, you can't say that this is how we are heading forward. You cannot justify with that.
You can't.
So what other justification do you have? Because you probably have one.
Give me something else, man.
Come and speak to Kenyans and say, this is why we are doing what we are doing. I do not want to hear, what's the name? Kimani who?
Who? Which one?
MP Molo.
Kuria.
I do not want to see Kuria Kimani explaining the finance bill. He is not the author of the finance bill. It's not his bill. He is only processing that bill by taking the views of the public and taking the views of the executive and guiding his committee in considering the bill and taking a report to Parliament. He is not the author. He should not be explaining or justifying any provision of this bill. I do not want to see KRA official going to TV and trying to say that motor vehicle circulation is trying to nab those that don't pay income tax, and those that pay income tax who are caught up in it. Well, just collateral damage. Just collateral.
Nothing to do about that.
We cannot have that. We should be having the people who are owners of this bill explaining it, and they start at the very top. If President William Ruto can actually explain and say, this is why I'm introducing motor vehicle circulation tax, and stand there next to David Ndii, and on this other side you have Professor Jogona Dongo, economists, and say, this is what they told me. They told me motor vehicle circulation is because the car is going around, the wheel is going around, we are circulating. So there's a circulation.
So
and
there's a tax.
Jogona come and explain further. Jogona come and explain, Professor, this is it, this is it, this is it, this is it, and this is why we are calling it an income tax and not any other thing. If we have that, then we listen, and then we tell them no, and they should hear the no. Dear Mr. President, William Indiani, good morning.
Morning to you, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Salamia wenzako ndu na
Leo ni city. Leo ni ndu peke yake, city hayupo.
Leo ni ndu city. Good morning to you. I'm just driving up, so
all right.
Just catch up with you.
My
dear
short Mr. President,
would be, dear Mr. President, we really want to support your government, but we cannot support your government if every night we go to pray, we are cursing you. And every morning, instead of praying for a beautiful day, we are still cursing you. We can't work with those energies. Kindly save us.
thank you very much, William. Thank you. That's a good one. Let's cross over to Hanover in Germany. Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Du.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. I just wanted to contribute and say that indeed the taxes are very punitive, especially for the charges that are charged in the banks and now even the mobile charges to be very difficult to do businesses. So he really needs to consider that.
Speak to him directly. Say, dear Mr. President, and give him a message.
Yeah, Mr. President, please consider your people. The small-scale people are really suffering back at home here. Please do something concerning it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Also on social media, David is saying, dear Mr. President.
Okay, so it's quite some here. David says, dear Mr. President, deal with extravagant spending, wastage and corruption in your government. Focus more on service delivery for who put you in office. Dear Mr. President, says Freddie, with more taxation proposals, are you thinking of the future of businesses and people relying on these businesses? Businesses are closing down due to high taxes.
James?
Dear Mr. President, says Samuel, please lift the Bible. Nikiweka Biblia chini and other short stories are now killing us. Lift the Bible. At least things might change. Please lift it. James Mukabana, dear Mr. President, Rice, all these concerns raised means that something is amiss. Should you want to make history, let it not be at the expense of the common wananchi in whose situation you used to be elected. My goodness, quite some. Dear Mr. President, you need prayers.
That's it.
Why don't we hold the bull by the horn and address the IMF too? We are not doing this anymore.
Message to the president. He is the ultimate owner of the finance bill. It has come from the executive. He's the head of the executive. It was drafted presumably in the National Treasury and also with input from his economic advisors. It was taken to cabinet. It was discussed in cabinet. It was approved. The chair of the cabinet is the head of the executive, is the president of the Republic of Kenya. So let's speak directly to the owner of the finance bill. Mr. President, what do you want to tell the president on the finance bill? Everybody that we've heard is complaining this, the other, this, the other. There are measures here that are not just going to be painful. They are going to kill us.
They're going to be impossible. They're going to be impossible.
And so why do we have them?
Why do we have them?
0719-012-600. That's the number to call. That's 0719-012-600. Check also on what people are saying on Facebook as we continue. It's just, there's a lot of feedback that's being given, and that's technical feedback that's being given to the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly. We are hearing various sectors going there. We are hearing various professionals going there. SMEs have gone. SMEs and startups are saying this thing is going to kill the startup sector in Kenya. So it's not the finance bill measures and proposals are not supportive of the startup culture in Kenya, which is Remember, it has surpassed even Nigeria and South Africa in terms of the amount of venture capital that's coming into this country, the amount of startups that are coming up here, people who are just thinking ideas, thinking solutions, coming up with solutions and seeking investment into those solutions. This is going to cripple that. The big industries are saying these ones are killing us. Beer manufacturers, this one is killing us. If we come into motor vehicle owners, motor vehicle owners, this is killing us. Ride-hailing apps that are not domiciled here, Uber, Bolt, they're saying we just have to shut down. We can't operate in Kenya anymore because this is going to kill us. Everybody is going to die. Jeffrey in Mombasa.
Yes, Ndu and the rest there.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Dear Mr. President, speak.
I want to tell Mr. President that a nation is built by citizens and by tax collections. But you cannot collect the tax from dying citizens because of what the measures you have imposed, particularly on taxes. I'm talking on in terms of the motor vehicle taxes. Now you are going to kill insurance companies, you are going to kill transport companies, you are going to kill, when you kill the industry in that manner, then where will you get the taxes from? Because these people use the same means to move and create economy and make money, and the money is in circulation. But when they cannot move, then ni kama kupika sima kwa watu ambao wamekufa tayari.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Brian in Kisumu, how are you?
And thank you. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Dear Mr. President, go.
Yes, my message to the President is this. Dear Mr. President, the bottom-up economy that you campaigned on, the platform that which you campaigned on, today it is the hustler unananyanyasa na tunakuangalia. And you talk with so much bravado, you and your team, so much arrogance. But you have to know that common mwananchi, that there is no one who was born a master of arrogance. We only choose to behave when there is an option of misbehaving. Na pole pole tutapatana mbele. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. What are they saying on Facebook?
We don't have much there. It's just more or less the same thing. I'm just looking at what else folks have said on socials this morning. Dear Mr. President, Prados are not the only cars that can move, especially in Nairobi. Even the Voxy will cut down on fuel expenditure by half. Stop buying Prados to use in the city and then fly out. Dear Mr. President, kazi hiyo kamba kabisa because we are here pretending we didn't know what bottom-up meant. Okay. Dear Mr. President, unshackle yourself from being a puppet of the West. You're killing this country, and you and your lot cannot account for the Eurobond while we citizens pay dearly.
Okay.
Dear Mr. President, some saw you in 2007, but gave you a chance. Just know what is awaiting your end. Dear Mr. President, cut down on your motorcade. That's interesting.
Matthew is in Nakuru. Matthew, good morning.
Good morning.
Speak to the President.
Dear Mr. President, when you came in, you told us that you're not going to borrow any amount of money. What happened? Right now, last week during the prayer breakfast, we saw high-end vehicles. So you guys are languishing in riches while others are languishing in poverty. Dear Mr. President, Kenyans ni wale wale. You will come up with tax measures, you come up with ways of evading paying those taxes. Let us see who is going to lose. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. 0719-012-600. We are sending a message to the head of government, President William Ruto. Dear Mr. President, he is the ultimate person responsible for the finance bill. It was drafted by the National Treasury, of course with input from his Council of Economic Advisors, but it was approved by the President. By the time it's going to Parliament for our input, it has come from the executive. So let's not even give our message to Kuria Kimani, the chairman of the Finance Committee, and his team. Let's speak to the author of the finance bill. Let's hear from Ali in Mombasa. Good morning.
Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Very good. How are you,
I'm
Ali?
giving my message to our President, His Excellency Dr. William Samuel Ruto. I've never seen any country that is growing with high taxation and low bill of development. Our recurrent expenditure is above 60%, so we cannot grow. The more we tax our people, the more we create our local expenditure, that is the bills of administration and whatever. So this country cannot grow with high taxation and high bill of administrative costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Evans in Nairobi.
Good morning, Eric and Shindu.
Good morning, Evans.
I want to speak to the President.
Go ahead.
Dear Mr. President, you traveled to the US. The flight costed you billions of shillings. Yet our kids do not even have any money to be in school. Our fellows are languishing in the cold after their houses were demolished. Now you want to charge us what will not benefit us. It's not easy down here. It's so painful on us. But we trust that things will be good. Please don't do these taxes on us. We don't want them, and they are not good for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Evans. Amos.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning to you. It's your turn. Speak to the President.
Mine will be different. Dear Mr. President, you gave us the promise. We never took time to question how they are going to be financed. Now that we are learning, please press on. Let us learn so that next time when we are making the choices, we do it in the very comprehensive way. Because as Kenyans, we always fail to criticize, to ask questions, and then later we start crying. We saw them coming, we talked, nobody ever listened. So do what we are doing, let Kenyans learn. Next time we'll be objective in terms of making decisions.
All right, Amos. Thank you very much. Muhammad in Mokijembe.
Assalamu alaikum wangwana.
Alaikum salam.
Mmemkaje huko?
Salama kabisa, sijui wewe.
Mimi sina ujumbe, mimi nashukuru ujumbe kwa rais sina, lakini in a nutshell kitumbua kimeingia mchanga.
Explain that to me. What is kitumbua? I purposely called to explain because the other day you were discussing about kitumbua. Kitumbua is a type of mahamuri or mandazi. Lakini the ingredient is not wheat flour, it is rice flour with other ingredients like what we call yeast and what have you. And then it is deep fried, and it gets fluffy. And then the outer skin becomes colorish in brown, light brown color when it's well done.
Masa.
Okay, whatever you call it. Yeah. And then the problem with this type of delicacy, the outside skin is very oily, number one. Number two, the outside skin is not smooth. It is sort of with some porous here and there. So the moment it drops in the sun, the sun particles will penetrate in most part of that delicacy. Yes. So even if you kukuta it or whatever, you shake it to remove the sand particles, you are wasting your time. Even if you wash it, mchanga inaingia every part of it. Even if you wash it, you do whatever you do, mchanga utakula. So when I say kitumbua kimeingia mchanga, whatever we discuss, we converse, we tell the president, hiyo mchanga itakuwa imepatikana hapo kwa hiyo kitumbua. Hiyo finance bill. That is my contribution.
Thank you very much.
So I hope you got something to do with kitumbua. When you come to Mombasa, try this delicacy. It's very easy. In fact, it's sweet. It's mixed with sugar also.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Asante. Goro Diambo.
Good morning, Eric and Du.
Good morning.
Now, then I switch on to say good morning, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
My message to you directly as President is that you deserve to be in jail. You need to resign from being President of this Honorable Republic and book your space in jail. If that can't happen, then I think it is a good reason for why you see many countries in Africa being overthrown for bad governance. Number 2, stop going to church and pretend before God that you are a God-fearing person. You belong to jail. Thank you so much, indeed, Mr. President.
Why,
but
God?
it's obvious. It is obvious. It's obvious. You can see it everywhere.
Where?
You can't compare. You can't rush Kenya to the Chinese economy that Chinese are taxing up to so much. Nigeria is taxing. They are producing something. What is Kenya producing? You are taxing out of production. You don't tax out of the vacuum. South Africa is making production. Nigeria is making production. We are even seeing films here from Nigeria, my brother. What are we producing to justify that taxation? What are you taxing out of? You must make production before you produce, before you tax. Any learned fool should see that sense. You can't tax from a vacuum. Eric and Ndu, you cannot make taxation out of a vacuum. You must produce. What is Kenya producing? Even when he imports, what do you call it, fertilizer here, he goes and mixes it with sand, and then what he gives to the farmers is something else. And nobody can be punished for that. Is that what you call production?
No.
So where is the jailable offense here?
Yeah, because you don't seem to be having what we call humanitarian heart of administration. You are leading people. You are leading God's creatures. You are not leading, even if you are leading stones. Stone is a God's creature. Yes.
Thank you, God.
If you are misleading them knowingly, and you are living lavishly, then you are telling them to live within the means. Unless he defines the means, what is the means?
God.
That's unfair.
Message sent. Thank you very much.
Sorry for my message could sound harsh, but I'm sorry. He's not fair. He's not doing well for the country.
Yes,
Thank you so very much indeed, Mr. President. Live long to see how you will govern, how Kenya will look like later.
Thank you very much for all the messages and the calls. Asante Sana. Well, the message is going home.
Yeah.
And we are yet to see what the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly will do with all the feedback it's receiving. It's overwhelming, to say the least.
It's quite a lot.
Everybody's coming to say, look. And they're giving their justifications. And they're producing memoranda and saying, this is the effect.
Revisit.
This is what is going to happen. Revisit. If they revisit, then what? So you can't raise the money that you are targeting to raise. So should we just be cutting back the budget? Should we be saying, no, reduce the budget from 3.9 trillion shillings, let's come back to a 2-point-something trillion shilling budget? And what does that mean? Can we raise enough money to pay the debt?
Exactly. Those are the questions that have to come up.
Where?
Something has to be done.
These conversations must continue. Thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today. Everybody on Spice FM, across KTN, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Radio Garden. We are also getting onto TikTok and X.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.